The problem with financial advisors is there's an agenda there. They have to kind of sell you on this idea of believing their philosophies. What we all want is different for everyone because we don't want money, we want freedom. We want to be able to be happy.
Investing in stock market is gambling. What would you say to those who make such statements?
You will not be able to approximate that growth because of your mindset, your risk tolerance. You don't become a good money manager miraculously by winning lots of money.
Real estate investment trust. Do they have them here in Dubai?
They are...
What is true wealth to you?
Wealth is, to me, a unit of time that you can buy into the future, because time's the thing we're trying to buy with the wealth that we're building. I've met millionaires who are unhappy, I've met billionaires who are unhappy, and the reason they're here and not here is because of the decisions that they've made throughout that path based on someone else's opinion, someone else's advice, and it isn't truly aligned to who they are as a person.
I even ask myself, what do I truly want? Because you are influenced. Sometimes you don't realize, it's like subconscious.
Mental freedom is the foundation for you having a great life.
Do you think you can achieve financial freedom when you invest only in real estate? Hey everyone, welcome to Keys to Dubai. In today's episode, we're going to speak about wealth management and financial freedom. We have a very special guest, Jason Graystone. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Jason, so for those who don't know you and your journey, do you mind sharing a bit more?
Sure. So I'm an investor primarily. I started investing at 21 years old. I was on this quest for financial freedom. And by the age of 29, I didn't need to work anymore. And I was in a position where I wanted to share a bit about what I'd learned along that journey. And since then, I've generated millions and millions of views on YouTube and 500,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I've just written a book and I've featured on all these amazing podcasts. So there's obviously a great demand for the information. I think it's being well received by people. So I'm just out here trying to promote that as much as I can because I believe that the message that I'm trying to put across is what we all want. So that's why I'm here today.
That is so true because after watching your videos on YouTube, I have to say that they were very transparent. They were very straight to the point, informative, easy to understand. It definitely caught my attention. I've seen so many different financial podcasts. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they were just confusing, misleading. When it comes to you, I think you give a very good advice and it's easy to understand. It's straight to the point. I really love that. And I also have to say that these days, there are so many, let's say those financial advisors, those who tell you how to invest in stock market, crypto. It's like all over the place. And now I personally feel sometimes, can I trust this person? Like, what would you say to those guys who are looking to start investing crypto? Where do they go?
Yeah.
What is safe?
I get what you're saying. And the problem with financial advisors or people spouting a certain instrument or investment opportunity or what have you, is there's an agenda there, and with an agenda comes showmanship. So they have to kind of sell you on this idea of believing their philosophies and all this kind of stuff. I started out very different. I started out being radically transparent about what the truth is, about what we all want. What we all want is different for everyone. It's all relative towards how much money we need as humans because we don't want money, we want freedom. We want to be able to be happy. That's really it. And although money's a means of getting there, it's only one piece of the puzzle. So building a wealth creation vehicle that will allow you to get to where you want to go, which is a different destination to everyone else on the planet, is going to be bespoke to you. So there's a bit more to it than just, buy crypto, or buy property. It needs to suit you as a person. And that's what I started talking about. And I think that's resonated really well with people.
Absolutely, that is so true because that's what I personally believe in. Transparency, advising people, telling them where to go. From my perspective, like from the bottom of my heart, what I truly believe in myself, mm-hmm. and I give an honest advice. I'm not selling anything. No. And I love that about you as well. You're just honest with people and you guide them in the right direction. Of course, depends on what they want. If it's long term or if it's short term, I've learned so much from your
Thank
videos.
you. Well, that energy is the key, I think, not needing anything in return. So from the start of this whole content world, it's been give without expectation. And I think that it's kind of weird. It's magic that the more you give, the more you receive. And it's kind of this universal attraction. But when I first started this whole content game, it was, how can I give people what they need so they have no questions? And every single video that I do, that I try to have that energy in each video. How can I create something where they don't need anyone after this video? You know, and if you can put that energy into something, you magnetize even more. It's just the way that the world works.
I know. I love that. I've seen some of your videos when you just watched the 2-hour YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were like, I think 2 parts, and you can trade.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Right.
It's a detailed information, step by step, what you need to know. I think that's brilliant.
I think that energy comes across as, well, it's kind of, you know, there's no hidden agenda. There's nothing that I need that I want from you. And I think that builds a lot of trust. And I think content, the whole social media, the whole content authority piece is just about getting people to spend more time with you, to build trust with them, and then they'll just want more from you. And
absolutely,
that's the key.
I know, and I really love that. I love the word, that's the key. Like, that's the key. I love this phrase. Yeah, that's because that's what our podcast called The Keys to Dubai, the key. That's true. Well, Jason, you know, we talk here about real estate in Dubai. I'm very passionate about investing in real estate. Mm-hmm. But me personally, I want to diversify my portfolio, and I know about REITs, and it's investing in real estate without actually buying a piece yourself. A brick. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So my approach is kind of esoteric towards wealth creation, and it's all about freedom, flexibility, mobility, and paying for your lifestyle. So we ultimately need money to pay for our day-to-day things, right? So the problem with a house or a building or a physical bricks and mortar product is, one, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose money more or less on any investment. But two, it doesn't contribute towards the goal of freedom, liquidity, right? So I can't break a brick off of a house and pay for my breakfast with it, right?
Yes.
So when you're first getting into investing, you have to really just become a master of risk. And let's just say that let's talk about the stock market before we cover that. Let's just say that you just put all your money into one company, Apple, right? The problem with that is all your eggs are in that basket. And when that starts to dip or go down in price, your stress is raising, your net worth is going down with the price of the Apple stock, right? Yeah. So that can be very stressful. So the next step would be to diversify that risk by saying, okay, well, I'll buy 5 companies. But then if you buy Apple and Nokia and Samsung and 5 tech stocks, then you're still at risk for the sector. So the tech industry goes down, which it does after every single boom. You've still got the same problem. So the way around that is to own every company in every asset class, in every sector, right? So that you kind of appreciate and approximate the growth of the entire market whilst riding through any crashes or recessions or dips, because you're diversified against all of that. What a real estate investment trust is a pool of property companies. So it's in a property sector, but you could have, old people's homes, or you could have commercial real estate, or you could have, a particular type like hotels, right? So you're owning a portion of a fund that goes up over time because it's diversified, and you're in the property market, but you don't have to actually own a physical bricks and mortar. And the best thing about it is you've got that liquidity. You can withdraw your cash within 2 days if you wanted to. You can get returns and pay for your lifestyle with the returns without eating into the original investment. So there's a differential there between freedom and capital gains, and I choose freedom personally. Now, it's not for everyone, and if you've got the opportunity to be in the property market, particularly here in Dubai, which is incredible, that's a wise move, but the real estate investment trust will give you that happy balance.
100%, I agree with you. I do believe in diversified portfolio when there is liquidity. What is with real estate is not so much. Mm-hmm. Question, when it comes to real estate investment trust, Do they have them here in Dubai? How big are they? Have you heard of any?
They are new, I believe, but I know of a few people that are setting them up. So
Right.
they've got incentives around funds of properties that are, you can buy into the fund. So you're not putting your money into the actual property, you're buying the companies that are managing these properties. And the ones that I know are very new or relatively new, but some of the incentives there are just phenomenal. I don't know how long that will go on for, because I'm sure, well, I don't know if you'll run out of places to build here. Probably not for a long time.
I don't think so.
But there's definitely a wave about to happen here for sure.
I personally think there'll be more of those, and over time we'll have some that are pretty strong.
Yeah, because Dubai seems to be working in hubs. So it's got like media city, and they've got hubs for creators. It's got hubs for property. So they're very much aligned with that style of growth anyway. So I think you're right.
I love that. Question. You talk a lot about financial freedom. Do you think you can achieve financial freedom when you invest only in real estate?
I think you can, but the problem on our side of the world, so maybe not in Dubai so much, but we're sold this dream that if you own a home, you are going to be financially free. In actual fact, buying a house to live in can be the opposite of financial freedom. It actually pulls you further away from financial freedom, because all of your money is locked up in a house. You've then got to pay for the upkeep of that house, and that means you sacrifice your freedom to pay for something that's just going up, but you actually can't enjoy the fruits of that. There's no, until you sell it, right? And then you have to sell it, and then you have to downsize to enjoy the money, which is, I think people just kind of flippantly say, oh, well, I'll just downsize when I'm older. But in actual reality, I still feel 20 in my head. Like, I'm not going to want to downsize what I've built my whole life. I'm 43. So,
you're my age. We're the same age.
Awesome.
I love that.
There you go. But I won't want to downsize my life. And I think people don't spend enough time forward thinking and really getting to grips with what that will be like at that time. And you lose a lot of dignity, you lose a lot of pride, there's sentimental issues that you might have of raising a family in a house. Now you've got to sell it, and we don't really want to do that, right? So it's not always a good play to buy a property with a goal to become financially free, because it's almost like it's the opposite. I always say, like, it's like saying you want world peace,
right,
but learning how to build an atomic bomb. It's like, it's the complete opposite. It's not complementary at all. So going back to your question, the way to become financially free is through assets. And assets create leveraged income. They create income regardless of your time and space. So if you're investing in real estate and renting it out, and you're enjoying the fruits of the income pays for your life, and whilst you're having, so that's the way that you get financially free through property.
Yes, I agree with you, because I do know a lot of people who have a quite large real estate portfolio. As you correctly mentioned, they rent them. Let's say they have 50 properties in Dubai or internationally, worldwide.
Yep.
So they rent them out, they get quite good income. But then I'm thinking, why would you leverage yourself just to real estate? And I guess some people are either scared or maybe not really aware of how to play when it comes to stock market.
Yeah.
Because I do believe having diversified portfolio is the best option. It's safe, especially when it comes to liquidity. And when I speak to those people who invest in real estate only, they tell me, but Vic, it's like gambling. I'm sure you heard it so many times. Yeah. Investing in stock market, it's gambling. What would you say to those who make such statements?
So first of all, just to kind of tie off that last question and go into this question, people think of financial freedom as this goal that they've got to get to, and they're trying to get to it. And they think it's a one-off event. Financial freedom is being able to have the life that you want and pay for it. And that can happen without a big cash event, without anything. It's the way that you manage your money that will allow you to be financially free, right? So that you can wake up every day and do what you want. So first mind shift is to think of financial freedom that you can actually achieve on a daily basis, rather than something you've got to work towards and hit and then just be there. It's not binary, it's something you can do right now. Second of all, going into the stock market question is people think it's gambling, people think it's risky, and that's true. If you've got that opinion, it is, right? So there's this whole idea that you need to earn your right to higher degrees of risk. So I got a message earlier today and they said, well, what do you think about crypto over stocks? And I say, okay, well, let's break it down. Bitcoin, for instance, right? Bitcoin's going up on average 50% per year. Stock market, you might pick a stock and it goes up 15% per year or 20% per year, right? It doesn't mean, there's no correlation between the performance of that asset and how much you will return, okay? And the reason there's no correlation between the two is because you will not be able to approximate that growth because of your mindset, because of your lack of knowledge, because of your risk tolerance, right? Because of your understanding of it. So you could put all your money in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's only ever gone up since it started, and yet most people are losing money. How? Well, the reason how is because they don't understand it and they're jeopardizing their own growth by pulling the money out on little dips because they don't understand it. If something's keeping you up at night, you shouldn't be in it. Or if it's keeping you up at night, it means you've either got too much money in it or you don't understand it, right? So you want to kind of allocate your funds. Let's just say you've got this pot of funds. You want to allocate it in correlation with what you know most about, right? So a savings account doesn't require any knowledge, right? A high interest savings account doesn't require any knowledge. So just put all of your money in there until you understand a bit about a stock that you want to buy, right? And then you allocate, proportionate to what you understand about a savings account and a stock. You might go, oh, okay, well, I know 30% of my knowledge on this stock now. You put 30% of your capital into the stock. And then you let that work. And then you understand Bitcoin. And you might have a 5% understanding of Bitcoin. And you take 5% and you put it into Bitcoin. And then what you're doing is you're growing your money relative to your capacity, your mind capacity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And what that will do is not allow you to wake up in the night checking your investments and, being distracted when you're in meetings because you're thinking about Bitcoin price going down or a stock price going down, because it's all relative to your brain capacity, your mental and psychological strength.
Absolutely. Because I've done a bit of crypto investment myself. Didn't realize, I didn't know much myself about it. Took somebody's advice, I guess like many do. But then I found myself checking all the time. Oh my God. And I'm like, no, it's disturbing my peace. Perhaps that's why I love real estate. This stability, like this brick and mortar gives me peace. But I think you just need to be more educated.
You need to be more educated. And that, people are doing it to become free. If you're checking your phone, you're now a slave to your phone. You're a slave to that thing. You're not going to be free by doing that, right? So you'll never achieve freedom. And if you do, it will be one lucky event where you cash in, and guess what? Because you haven't managed the money well enough, you'll splurge it all, it'll be gone, it'll be squandered.
Yeah. Oh my God, no, I would get myself mental. And I'm like, I can't go into that direction. I need my peace of mind.
You don't become a good money manager miraculously by winning lots of money. You just don't. You have to manage money first and then put that into a system that's going to grow that you can handle mentally. That's really what it's about.
That's true. Well, I also believe that if, let's say, I don't have perhaps the knowledge, maybe the passion or interest, but I still want to invest, I go to those who will guide me, who will help me.
Absolutely.
And I wonder, where would that be? Like, what would you advise? Like, I want to create my portfolio. Where do I start?
You go to, what you just said is a great idea. You go to people who understand that, appreciate that you're going to have to pay them some kind of management or consultancy fee or performance fee for managing that portion of your allocation. But being able to have that approach of prioritizing your interest and inspiration is the key, because as soon as you try and do something that you don't actually want to do or don't enjoy, which is why most people go into trading, they go into it thinking they're going to like it, but they don't, because the reality is it is not an exciting thing. It's very boring, mundane, systematic, process-oriented, and unless you love looking at charts, you won't do well. So for most people, they realize that that's not for them. So there is a highest failure rate in trading, not because it's difficult, but because most people shouldn't do it. Most people shouldn't be doing it. So the key is to identify, okay, well, you need to understand how to diversify for optimal growth, and then pinpoint all those things, prioritize them in terms of what you're interested in and what you're not interested in, or what you might want to learn more on later, and then just delegate all of that stuff until you do, and find the right people to be able to do it for you.
To guide you. That's true.
But again, only allocate what you mindset can keep up with. Because if I find the best crypto investor in the world, I still wouldn't give him 50% of my net worth, because it would still keep me up at night, right?
Yes.
I would still be ringing him going, what's happening?
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I would be that. And I always try to forecast. I'm always looking at what's the economy of this country. Look at this company. What's happening in the world? There is a war. And you go into this trying to analyze the future, predict the future in a way. Is there a crash coming? Or what's going to happen? Because that all, of course, is going to affect the stock market. How much of forecasting can you actually...
So I'm much more of a long-term thinker, and I know that humans just drive everything, right? So human beings, we haven't really mentally changed for about 3,000 years. So there are cycles that just happen again and again and again. So first of all, you shouldn't have any FOMO of missing out, because the cycle will come back around, and whatever that swing was, you will catch it if you're ready for it, right? The key is everyone tries to be ready the day after it happens,
right.
And everyone's like, well, it's going up now. I need to learn this, right? Just learn it now and then be ready for next time. And you're going to make way more money doing that than you will just being ready the day after. The amount of people that ask me about Bitcoin when it's going up, or they ask me about a stock after it's gone up. And that's the people. Like, there was a story, a guy that was, it was a builder on my house, and he said, tell me about this Bitcoin thing. And I was like, okay, don't buy Bitcoin unless, one, it's money you can afford to lose, and two, you're not going to check it every day, okay? And he said, no, yeah, I will. And I said, okay, well, it's up to you. He bought in. 3 months later, he tells my wife that he's lost money. He had to pull it all out. And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, okay, not sure why he did that. 5 months later, it's at all-time highs. It's almost impossible to lose. So the only reason he lost is because he didn't know enough. He tried to catch it too late. He just wasn't prepared. And these cycles are going to come around again and again and again. It's like, there's a saying, the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago. The next best time is now. That is so true in investing. That you shouldn't have any FOMO. You should just have a solid, be the investor that you admire. That's what I would say.
I agree with you. And I can draw some parallels when it comes to real estate. You invest, and even if there is a crash, you stick to it. In fact, you buy more because the pricing is low.
Price.
That's an opportunity. Give it some time. Market it'll pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same, if you look at the stock market, when we're overinflated, so there are times like the dot-com boom, just after COVID, and there's periods of time where the market is too expensive, and it's knowing when to reduce your regular deposits so that you save up some cash for when we crash, and then you put more in. You put even more in because you're getting a better return on your money. You're getting discounted shares, basically. But if you don't understand how to do that, then you are just hoping and praying, and that's never going to generate any sustainable wealth whatsoever.
Yes, I agree. So when it comes to investment, whether it's real estate or whether it's stock market, you need to be knowledgeable. You need to know what you're doing, not to get emotional, not to panic. You do need to educate yourself, I believe, prior to...
Absolutely. Like in property, for instance, there's passive investing and then there's trading. And there's that structure is in all wealth creation vehicles. So in property, it would be, passive investing would be buy to let. You buy properties, you let them out, and you get the rental income, and it's kind of pretty easy. Anyone can do it. You just put your cash into it. Below that would be real estate investment trusts, where you're not even doing that, right? So that's even more passive. But as you ascend the scale, trading is buying and flipping properties, where you have to have a skill. You have to know where you're sourcing the properties. You need to know where you're selling it before you've bought it, so that you're connecting the dots to make the best return. You need to know how to optimize the refurbishment of that property, or the build of that property. And you need to be really lean on costs for that. So you're going to have skills there, or know people there. So a lot more goes into that, but that's a trade. That's a trading environment where you're buying, selling, right? So the higher degrees of return, obviously there's higher returns to be had on that, but you need more skill. You need to know more about it, and that's the truth of it. And the higher the skill, if you're trading, you need to be doing it yourself. I recommend no one gives anyone money to trade, because if it's that level of skill and that level of volatility, you're going to jeopardize. People have given me money before and they're ringing me, how's it doing? What's going on? It's going down. It's going up, put more money in, and it's like, well, that's not how it works.
It must be difficult.
So I don't do that. I did it once, but it doesn't work very well because people they're not me.
It's true, and it puts responsibility on you in case if they want to sell and you're like, no, don't do it now, and they don't listen, and then they'll blame you at the end.
Do you know, the first person I did it for, I got a 76% return for them in 1 year, and they were disappointed.
That's not fair.
Because that's how warped our mind is in terms of what's possible with trading and things like that, because of how it's portrayed on the social medias and things.
Jason, so let's talk about different types of investments, and I would like to touch on why some people find it so hard.
Right. Okay, so let's take real estate in any investment vehicle, there is a structure from very low risk, low leveraged, low return, low skill, passive investment, right through to trading, speculation. And in every wealth creation vehicle, you've got that structure. So in real estate, it would be something like this. A real estate investment trust would sit at the bottom where you don't have to know much about it. You just put your money in, you're going to get a lower return, but it's almost like fixed income. It's going to be guaranteed growth, not financial advice, but it's going to be kind of a fixed growth. You don't have to know much about it. You can automate the whole process. You can forget about it. And that's very passive. It requires little of your time, little of your space. The next rung up might be buy-to-lets, where you're putting a smaller amount in and you're renting and you're generating an income, and maybe an agent's looking after that for you, so you're hands off and it's passive and you're getting an income from buy-to-lets. People stay in those buy-to-lets for long periods of time, so it's kind of, it's sustainable that way. Right up to buying and flipping properties. So when you're buying and flipping properties, you have to be an expert in property. You have to know how to do the best deal, the best trade. That is trading, right? Where you have to go, I'm getting this at the best price. I know where I'm selling it to already. I'm going to optimize the capital growth on it, or the value of it, by being lean on the refurbishment or the build. And I'm going to have contacts here and there. I'm going to get sourced cheap contacts from here and there. And then you optimize the growth of that return on the flip, on the trade. And for that, you have to be a very skilled person. So I always recommend that if you're at that level, you should be doing it yourself. There should be no one that you give your money to trade. I don't believe that at all. As I said before, that for the first year that I managed money for someone, I did 76% return, and they were disappointed because their warped expectations of what was possible through trading. So it's a big headache, and you should be doing it yourself. The reason people find all of this wealth creation hard is because they are looking at it through the lens of, I need to do something that's going to make me a lot of money. And the money is dictating their FOMO actions. They're being kind of guided along by where the money-making opportunities are. All we really want is to get up and do what we want and have the money to pay for what we want. The reason it's so hard is most people don't know what they want. Most people are trying to do things because they think they should. I met someone the other day and I said, what's the goal for your business? And he said, next goal is 50 million. And I said, awesome, why? And he said, well, it's just that's the next thing. And we was picking it. And it turns out that really he just plucked an even-handled number out of the sky. And it really boils down to him proving an X wrong, or proving rubbing it in the face of an old boss or something like that, or some old colleague, right? And you think, you're a slave to that. You're never going to be free doing that. Yes. And that is not freedom to me. So he wants something and he's chasing something that isn't truly inspiring to him. He doesn't really want that. He's doing it for someone else. Think about what the consequences of that are. He's now got to leave his family and leave his kids while he's hustling and working hard, and he's sacrificing all of those experiences to hit a number for someone else. And that to me is why it's hard, because they are moving themselves further away from what they truly want. They don't know themselves, and they want goals that are important to other people. And the moment you do that, you're a slave to the whole game.
I agree.
So just to kind of wrap up this question, build wealth. But if it's not inspiring to you, get experts, because it is important. You want that financial level of freedom to stop what you're doing should you wish to, or should you need to, if you have an injury or whatever. If you're doing what you truly enjoy, you never want to stop. You just want to work forever. You want to do whatever but it's nice to have the opportunity to relax or sit back and know that everything's going to be okay for a few months if you need to, right? And that's the financial underpinning. That's the financial stability piece. But it's important to do that, but if you don't have expertise in it, it's really important that you get in touch with people who can guide you, and give you solid advice on that stuff.
100%.
Because that will put your mind at rest. That will allow you to live the life that you want to live. You won't have FOMO. You can do the things you want to do, and it's taken care of.
Yes.
So most people don't want, I wasn't born wanting to invest in real estate, right? I was born wanting an ice cream and play a football and play guitar. And I think most people want that now. You just want to be 7 years old. That's what you want. So there you go.
I love it. No, but I agree with you. I think guidance, knowledge, it's of crucial importance. It's definitely needed if you want to be stress-free.
Yeah, 7.
Yes. Jason, so I would like to ask you, what is true wealth to you?
Wealth is, to me, a unit of time that you can buy into the future based on your current experiences and lifestyle costs that are important to you, right? So if you add up all of your liquidity that you have and you divide that by your living costs, you'll have a unit of time. And that is how much time you can buy into the future. So there was a period of time where I used to live next to this guy, multi-millionaire, and my son's friend was doing a paper round. And my son's friend was getting like £11 a week, right? And he'd spend like £8 on football stickers and sweets. But the millionaire next door, he was earning like 20 grand a month and spending 19, right? And it's relative. So when you work the math, it's like they can both buy 1 month into the future, okay? So they're both as free as each other, okay? So if their income stopped today, they could afford to live for 1 month, both of them. Right? So for me, it's about how much time you can buy into the future. The problem the reason most people don't achieve that is because they acclimatize a lifestyle based on what other people around them are injecting their opinions, and they're keeping up with people, right? So it's like, you buy a Ferrari, I'll buy this Ferrari, you buy the thing, I'll buy the thing. And it's kind of, you lose track of who you are and what's important to you, and that's costing you time. So now you can't buy as much time into the future, right? So freedom to me is having time in the future. And if I lost my income today, how long could I live for? That's really what every investor should be asking themselves, because it puts you in touch with reality of why you're doing it in the first place. Because time's the thing we're trying to buy with the wealth that we're building.
Brilliant. I love that. And it applies to the buy a lot when you see all
mostly
the
here.
Yes, right?
Very much so here.
You see the flashy cars, the show off, the shops. Oh gosh, it's just one big show off place, Dubai.
I mean, I look at a Ferrari and think, okay, you're on 200,000 a year, okay? If you sold that Ferrari, you can have 2 years off. What can you do in 2 years? You could create even more wealth. You could learn how to invest in the stock market. You could learn more passive approaches, right? But they don't. They kept swept along, and before you know it, they're now on a hamster wheel. And they chase, and they sacrifice today's happiness for tomorrow's profit. And tomorrow never comes, because that bar is always raising and raising.
That is true. In one of your videos, somebody's asked you, would you buy a home in your country or abroad? And you said, abroad. Yeah. And I'm like, why? I'm just curious. Why did you say that?
I would buy a house abroad because I would want to live in it.
I love that. It'll be Dubai for sure. We'll assist you.
If I buy a place here, I'll be coming to you for sure, because I know nothing about buying a place here.
We will give you the best, for sure.
Can't wait for that.
I want to have financial freedom, and I want to have more wealth, and I want to build more. And that's why I need you here. I need more of your advice on it, because I'm personally very passionate about this topic, as many of our viewers. And I would like to talk about your book, Always Free. Love the title.
Thank you. So Always Free came about, it's a book that I've been writing for 7 years. And the title came about just from our friends would say, like, do you want to come to the cinema, or do you want to go to a movie, or go to dinner, and do you want to come camping? And my answer would be like, yeah, just let me know, I'm always free. And after a while they were like, why are you always free? You know, and it was basically every event that we did would work around other people's calendars, because my calendar was empty, right? So my calendar was always empty, so I was always free. But then as, you know, I started talking about this stuff and conceptualizing what freedom actually was, it boils down to being, there's 3 types of freedom: mental freedom, mobility freedom, and financial freedom. And I've discovered that if you're missing one of them, you'll never be free, right? You won't achieve true freedom. These are all measurable things, and there's strategies for each of them. But I know people that are born into rich families, and they can go anywhere and have anything, but they don't know who they are. So they have no mental freedom, they have no purpose, no drive, they feel unanchored, they're very much like lost, okay? I know people who are, you know, they can go anywhere in the world and they're very mentally free, they know who they are, but they haven't got the money to stop. They feel like they're under pressure a lot, you know? And so without one of them, you'll never be truly free. So it's about working on each of those freedoms and having strategies to know who you are, truly who you are, what you want in life without looking up to other people, and then building a vocation around and a leveraged income system around who you truly are. So being who you want to be, doing what you want to do. And then financial freedom is that timepiece where you've underpinned the entire thing, being able to stop should you wish. But if you're doing what you want to do with who you want, where you want, when you want, you won't want to stop. Right? So the financial freedom piece is the smallest piece. It's the piece that just kind of underpins everything. And I think if you work on that, you'll feel a lot more free, and you'll feel more fulfilled as a human being than you will chasing the next crypto thing.
I love that. That's very interesting and very inspiring.
Thank you.
Well, I love what you say about your book and, you know, what it talks about. What would you say your target audience? Who is it aiming at mostly?
Yeah, it's typical. I mean, we all want freedom. That's what we're born. We want to just maintain that level of childhood innocence throughout our whole lives. And I've met millionaires who are unhappy. I've met billionaires who are unhappy. And I've met people earning 20, 30 grand a year who are unhappy. So it's really for everyone who wants freedom. But typically what we found is people who get into their late 30s, early 40s, they're now on a wheel they thought they'd be here in life. They're here in life. And the reason they're here and not here is because of the decisions that they've made throughout that path based on someone else's opinion, someone else's advice, and it isn't truly aligned to who they are as a person, right? So the reason that they're here is because they haven't taken actions that are aligned with them. They've taken poor strategies, poor advice, right? So now they've got to kind of reverse engineer to get back to where they thought they would. And like, I've worked with lots of doctors and accountants where they say, you know, my parents made me do this and I thought it was the best thing, and now I wish I'd always done this. And now they're taking night school and they're trying to like go back to doing what they should have done in the first place, right? And it's much harder to do that at that point. They're also at a stage where they're earning a lot of money. They've worked their way up in a corporation, or they're entrepreneur, they've got their own business, but the stress and the responsibility is more damaging than the amount of money they're earning. So they would rather take less money and have less stress at that point. Around 38, 40 years old, they want less money, less stress. So that's really who's going to get the most from this book. The people that have followed a path thinking that it's going to get them to where they want. They've realized and sort of panicked that they're not getting there. And now it's like, I need to figure out how to get back to who I am and what life is all about. That's what this book's for.
That is so true. And I love that you said the age gap, 30 to 40, because I myself was coming to so many realization. What do I really want in life? Because a lot of people, they think, oh, I have to get married. They think, oh, that's the right job to get because somebody told them. But they don't realize that they're not actually free.
No, I tell you a story. When I learned to drive, I asked my stepdad, like, should I learn an automatic car or a manual car? And he said, a manual, because then you can drive both. And I said, okay, I didn't question it. It took me longer to learn because it was more difficult. I spent more on lessons, so it cost me more money because it was more difficult. I failed the test the first time because it was difficult, so I had to pay for another test. Since I had passed my test, I've driven an automatic car for all my life, and all cars are going automatic now, right? So it was the worst advice. So just because he thought it was the good advice, it wasn't good advice for me. And if I had just stood there and questioned it and thought, okay, well, what do I want? You know, what is my future? What do I want my future to look like? And taking the advice based on what I want, I'd have a very different outcome with less resentment for him. Yes. So that happens on a macro scale every day when people are, especially with social media, spouting their opinions and ideas. You should do this, you need to do that, do the crypto, do the sales, do the thing. It's like, where the hell do you need to know yourself?
That is so true. And sometimes I even ask myself, what do I truly want? What do I want? Because you're influenced. Sometimes you don't realize it's like subconscious.
Yeah.
And like that freedom, like you said, there's so many things. Your family. Do I want to have kids? Do I need to work in this industry? Do I want to live in this country? Do I want to be international?
Yeah.
It's just, you really need to understand, and not everyone can do that.
Mental freedom is the foundation for you having a great life. And can I give you like an exercise?
I would love
for your
that.
listeners?
Oh, I would love that.
The best way, because the people listening might think, oh, I just don't know who I am. So the way that there's a series of things that you can do to really start to get to grips with who you are as a person. And the first one is as simple as opening your phone, going into your camera roll, and just scrolling through and looking at what you've chosen to take photos of over the years, right? Because there will be a pattern there. It might be kids, it might be mountains, it might be animals, it might be cars, it might be football, whatever, right? But there'll be a pattern there. And if you can combine that with questions like, if I was to phone up your friend and ask them what you're the person they go to for, what would they say? You know, what would you spend your disposable income on? What would you do Monday morning if you didn't need any money? You know, what would your business look like if you didn't need any money? These questions are really, really powerful. And if you combine them all, there'll be a pattern. And that pattern is closely correlated to your soul, your spirit as a human being. That's what you're here for. That's what you truly want to do. And if you can align your vocation and your income to that, then you are free. You are not, you're not working. There's no friction against you earning money because you wake up inspired to talk about it every day.
That is so true. I agree with you. I was actually doing some of those exercises.
Right.
Yes. And I mean, I personally have a psychologist who I work with, not because I need to, but I feel it definitely helps. And not everyone, well, first can afford it, one. Secondly, some people think, oh, no, they're just scared of it. They're like, oh, I'm staying away. When I personally think it's a great guidance when it comes to freedom in so many ways and discovering yourself. So I love that you have such a great book when you help people to find their freedom.
Yeah. When people ask me, I got asked recently what my goals are, and I said I have no goals. And I think the goal in life is to have no goals. I think you just live a life every day that's amazing.
One of the podcasts I'm listening currently, the guy says the same thing.
Right.
It's like, I have no goals. He's like, enjoy your life. And people ask him, how do I know what I want? How do I find myself? And he says, start from very little things. Ask yourself what you want to eat right now.
Right, exactly.
What do you want to wear? Just like, do you want to have caviar with champagne? Go for it. You might spend your last money, but you got to know what you want and you have to let yourself do it.
Absolutely. And making sure it's what you truly want, not someone else.
That's true, because we are definitely affected. Even when it comes to real estate, I myself get confused, overwhelmed, because the advertising, the amount of information, sometimes I'm like, what is the truth in it? It can be misleading. Like, you really need to understand it whenever it comes to anything in life, I believe.
There's going to be different opinions on everything, right? So your biggest power as a human is to be able to take paradoxes and synthesize them in relation to what you want. So it's like someone will be saying, do this, and someone will be saying, do that. The power is really being able to look at them both and say, okay, well, I'll take that pinch and form this because this is what I want. So there's good advice there. Everything's half true, right?
Yes.
So there's going to be some truth and some false. You take the truth and then align it to what you want, and that's the best thing you can do.
I love that. Let's say I want to put $1 million into stock market, crypto. What advice would you give me, like, if I have money?
Yeah. It kind of all evolves around what we spoke about earlier in terms of allocating it in relation to what you're most comfortable with, right? So the first thing, I get asked, what do you do with £1 million all the time? It's a common question. And firstly, I say, well, tax. I don't think you have that problem here.
Yes, yeah.
So make sure that you don't owe any tax. The second thing is, what do you know most about? And really it's just allocate it in terms of what you're comfortable with. It all comes down to your risk tolerance, your knowledge, how much you actually would love to earn from it all. Because it's one thing to say, oh, I'd love 100% or I'd love 200%, but do you? What do you actually need? And then structuring it in a way that's going to give you what you need. And seeking out experts to help you do that. If you don't know what to do with £1 million, Jim Rohn said, if you get handed £1 million, you better become a millionaire quickly so that you know what to do with it, because otherwise you'll squander it. So in other words, you need to be a millionaire in your mind. You need to understand what you're doing with it. So before you've even received that, you know where it's going, and then you just carry on like normal. It should be managed in a way that you manage any amount of money that you put into your wealth creation vehicle. So if the first question is, if you have that question, learn from people, experts on what the advantages and disadvantages are of those different vehicles.
Right.
So
yes.
without being, I've avoided that question to a degree, but it's kind of common sense.
I see what you mean. It also depends long term versus short term. I also think that you need to be emotionally stable.
Emotionally stable, yeah. That's the most important thing. Because if it's keeping you up at night, you will squander it.
Or some people make emotional decisions and they're just simply wrong.
Yeah. Or some people just don't feel worthy of the returns. Like people who win the lottery, they get rid of it quickly because they haven't sat there and asked themselves, do I deserve this? Why do I deserve this? What difference can I make with this money? So they just get this dumped into their bank account and they don't feel easy. They feel like they need to buy acceptance from their friends and families, and all of a sudden it's gone. They're trying to repel it before they've even done anything with it, right? So you have to be emotionally stable, you have to be emotionally worthy, and you have to have a self-worth that's accepting of that large sum of money in the first place. Otherwise it'll be gone.
Jason, so if I want to have a diversified portfolio involving real estate, stock market, crypto, what would your personal opinion would be on the percentage, just your personal view? How much of real estate, how much of crypto, how much of stock?
Yeah.
How to balance that?
So I would structure it in a way from most passive to most volatile, right? So take, for instance, the stock market. I would have let's just say 100% of our money, right? So 30 or 40% would go into index funds, right? Because that is diversified, low risk, low leverage. Then, so 30% in there, 20% might go into large cap stocks, which are picking individual stocks, like not financial advice, but you might pick a Apple or a Microsoft or something that's big that you believe in. And in order to do that, you then need another layer of skill that you need to understand the financial statements. You need to know why you're investing. Yeah, the goal to all of this is knowing why you're putting your money in something.
Right.
If you don't know why, then don't do it. That's the first key. And then you might go for medium cap stocks and put a smaller amount into there. And then maybe you put some venture capital into a startup and that represents 10%, until the point where you could just take a punt on like some startup company, or maybe you invest in like a startup and you put 5% into that. And what you've done is you've built a structure, like a pyramid. Right. And a pyramid is a very solid structure. It's the most solid structure to humankind. And it's very difficult to break. So whatever you're investing in, whether it's stocks or real estate, think of it as like you're building a house and I give you some playing cards and some bricks and some concrete, right? What are you going to put where? You're probably going to put the concrete at the bottom, and then the bricks, and then the playing cards are just going to be the roof, right? Because if the playing cards get blown away, most of the structure's still there. Most people, when they go into it, they try and build the foundation with playing cards and then put the concrete on the roof, right? And that is basically building this kind of upside down
reverse pyramid.
And it topples over because when it all crashes, it all crashes. And so really for me, it's about having a sensible, structured way that's methodical and, is respective to your mindset and your knowledge, and build it that way. And if there's gaps of knowledge, seek experts. That's really it.
Right.
Because if you're not interested in it and you haven't already learnt about it because you don't want to, don't learn about it because you don't want to, right? So find someone who can do that.
Yes.
If you do want to learn about it, make sure that you've allocated the funds relative to your knowledge about it. And then as you do know more about it, you allocate more of your funds to that particular thing. It's like for me with trading, all of my money was originally in stocks until I learned about trading Forex financial markets, right? And then I put 10%. And then I learned more and I put 20%. And then I learned more and I put 30%. And now, there was a stage where I had 40% of my net worth in my trading account because I was such an expert and I was comfortable. But I had to earn my right to that level of comfortability. Had I put 40% of my net worth into a trading account that I didn't know much about, I would have lost it all.
Yes, it's all about knowledge.
It's all about knowledge, and it's all about allocating the right amount to the right level of risk. And that is where you need people around you to go, right, well, this is the returns, this is the volatility. It's all about the volatility in the market because it really boils down to how much drop you can stomach.
Absolutely.
That's really it.
Yes, I agree with you. Bit by bit, with experience, with practice, you building it up.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know Seb, my friend Seb, he's a
Bates.
red or black guy.
Sebastian Bates.
He's a red or black guy. Like he can handle a lot of risk. He can just take big swings and get back up. He's all or nothing guy. He's a full on. But for me, I can't. I don't like to lose 10% of anything.
That is so true. Yeah, you see, making money, of course, makes everyone happy, but people forget. There is also the other side of the coin.
There's the other side. And as I said earlier, with Bitcoin, that's only ever gone up. But most people have lost money. How? It's because they can't stomach the dip.
Absolutely. That's why you need that emotional stability.
You need stability. You need people around you who are experts to reassure you on the average over time, the long-term thinking, the projective thinking, right? Because that's what investing's about.
I love that. Long-term thinking. I'm all about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jason, I would like to ask you, what's your opinion on Dubai?
Dubai is an incredible place. If I was 20 years younger, I'd be over here building and grinding and hustling, and there's so much opportunity here. It's just incredible. For me, personally, it's a lovely place to visit, and I'm happy in my little home in the farm in the UK, but I love coming here. It's a great place, incredible.
Jason, I would like to ask you, when it comes to real estate investment, have you done anything yourself?
Yes, I have actually. And it's an interesting story because it came as a result of building a personal brand. So because I was someone who was known in the space for talking about investments and I'd built a large following, I was contacted by a contact that I knew from quite a few years ago. And he said, "You've built a great following. We've been developing in Portugal, since the 70s, and we would love you to be part of it." And this opportunity came up where they needed 5 million euros to buy a plot of land, and on that land would be built 22 luxury villas, 16 townhouses, and 28 apartments. And it was overlooking the sea, and it was in Luz. And I said basically, like, how do you think I can help? And they said, well, we don't really have an audience. We need to raise investment. And I said, okay, what's the deal? And they offered me 40% of that whole business. So it was 40, 20 to the builder. So for me, it was like, wow, there's no money down from me. This is a very leveraged deal in terms of like I'm using my influence just to do this deal. So I went over there, I formed a brand of the actual development. We named it, I did a pitch deck, I organized some rounds of investment, got the money, they did the thing, they did all the build, I was hands off, and we end up with a 53 million euro, development, and they all sold off plan and all the rest of it. So, I ended up with 40% of the profits for not doing anything.
I love that.
Which just really, if you think outside the box and you think of other ways to get involved with these deals, sometimes, and I think Dubai are recognizing this in particular, that it's about influence, it's about authority, and having someone who's able to reach vast numbers of people can actually be a very valuable part of the deal, and that was evident with that. So yeah.
So it's a success story.
It was a success story, yeah.
I love that.
Very good. But personally in property, it's not my expertise. So I would come to someone like you.
Thank you. Jason, so fundamentally, if you would like to give us one piece of advice, what to truly invest in, what would that be?
That is such a great question. And I think based on everything we've covered, there's kind of been a common thread around knowledge, risk, knowing what you're doing, knowing why you're doing it. There's a great saying, it says, invest your pockets into your mind and your mind will fill your pockets. And I think that's probably the first thing. If you don't know what to do, invest in learning how to do it.
100%. And I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Jason, for those who want to get your book, including myself, where can we buy it?
I appreciate that. So it's out you can buy it on Amazon. That's probably the easiest place. And it's called Always Free. So yeah, go and grab your copy and let me know what you think about it.
Oh, I love that.
I'd be interested to hear what you got from it.
Well, I recommend everyone to read this beautiful piece. And thank you so much for watching us today. And we'll see you on the next episode.